What is the single biggest dick move in all of history? The original white elephant gifting from the King of Siam. This person would give this royal gift to people he found irritating and be entertained by the recipient's failing efforts to upkeep such an animal. Why don't they just give it away, you ask? Back in the day, receiving a gift and giving it away was perceived as an insult. Go figure. And giving away a gift from a neighboring kingdom is, well, that much bigger of an insult. So no dice. Economies apparently have failed in order to upkeep a royal gift like this. Honestly. D-move King of Siam. Edit. I'm seeing some comments about giving away the elephant, killing it, or letting it die. So I'm going to clarify something. If you are given a gift, out of respect you take care of that gift, because failing to do so would be taken as an insult from the gifting party. The King of Siam knew this and, for his pleasure, gave his opposing neighbors this annoyance of an animal an ultimatum. Either fulfill the upkeep of this economy sucking, worthless elephant, or I come invade your kingdom and slaughter you and your people. Being as powerful as he seemed to be, he probably sent delegations to these provinces to ensure the elephant was still around for years to come. LPT, keep that elephant alive. For those who don't know, a white elephant is rare and sacred. They were never used for work or war and were just comfortably maintained for their lifetimes at huge expense. And they couldn't tolerate the sun either. So the story goes that there's this people in southern Iraq whose agriculture, economy and way of living were built around them living within the swamps. They were not very fond of Saddam Hussein and his regime and did a protest march towards Baghdad. So meanwhile they moved towards the capital. Saddam took some excavators and drained the whole swamp. Problem solved. This is why I'm always kind of wary when I see dictators / autocrats and the likes depicted in the media as dumb or whatnot, because you simply just don't rise to those levels of absolute power without being a sneaky backstabbing bastard. Are they pros garbage? Yes, but they are also way smarter than it looks from the outside, and they know exactly what they are doing, and we should not underestimate them in any way. I don't think anyone ever thought Saddam was stupid. He was just a C. Thomas Mitchell invented freon and putting lead into gasoline. He knew that putting lead into gasoline was a D move, and he did it anyway for money. He knew because he got lead poisoning himself and still lied about its effects on people. Environmental historians have said that he has had the single largest impact on the Earth's atmosphere of any single organism in the history of the planet. Not to mention that lead levels directly correspond to lower cognitive abilities in the general population, and you can look up the dates to know who would have been affected. This also has to be a story of poetic justice. He had also invented a system of levers and pulleys to help him move around in bed after he became bedridden and his own invention strangled him in his sleep. I always thought the Fed putting Andrew Jackson on the $20 felt like a big FU, since he hated the idea of a centralized bank. Honestly, I never thought about that until now, but that's hilarious, and why we should keep Jackson on the $20 bill. What's even funnier is they were going to replace him with Harriet Tubman, but Trump has decided that Jackson is one of his favorite presidents, so the whole thing got put on hold. I can almost guarantee Trump has no idea about Jackson's feeling about the Fed. Work shall set you free on the gates to Auschwitz. Around the formation of the Persian Empire, Herodotus tells the story how King Astyages, the last king of Media, had a dream that his daughter would give birth to a king who would overthrow him. So he orders his general Harpagus to kill the child at birth. Harpagus doesn't want to kill the baby / spill royal blood, so he gives the child, Cyrus, to a shepherd to raise. 10 years later Cyrus is discovered alive. King Astyages fakes being happy that the kid is alive, suggesting he always regretted issuing that order. To celebrate he plans a feast and tells Harpagus to send his son over to play with Cyrus. During the banquet, King Astyages has the son of Harpagus killed, cooked, and fed to Harpagus. When the act was revealed, it is said that Harpagus did not react other than to gather the pieces of his son and remove them for burial. Harpagus bides his time. Much later, Cyrus is gathering forces against King Astyages. Astyages orders Harpagus, as his primary general, to lead the army against Cyrus. After a 3-day battle, Harpagus took his revenge for the death of his son by turning on the battlefield in favor of Cyrus, resulting in Astyages' defeat and the formation of the Persian Empire. Brutus pretending to be Caesar's best friend and then literally stabbing him in the back. France asking Haiti for a compensation after Haiti overthrew the colonial administration. It took 143 years for Haiti to pay off that debt. Why would Haiti not just tell them to F off? Russia telling Ukraine to give up their nukes for peaceful independence only for Russia to take back Crimea a couple decades later. Opium wars were pretty dickish. You don't wanna buy hard drugs from us and turn your population into useless addicts? Fine. We'll invade you and bombard your cities until you start buying. The burning of the Library of Alexandria. Russian army pushing Hitler back across Europe. Get to the outskirts of Warsaw and broadcast in Polish to have all the men in the city join the fight. Cue large uprising. Russia holds back until all the men in the city are killed, so there's nobody left to resist when they occupy, and then resume pushing Hitler back across Europe. Worth noting that Americans offered to help the uprising by bombing German positions. The idea was they'd send bombers from northern southern Italy, but they'd have to land in Soviet territory to refuel. Stalin didn't authorize this, so there were no bombers. Edit. Eventually, one supply drop was authorized. Another one of these is the liberation of Lvov, done by Polish Home Army, who afterwards disarmed when the supposedly allied Red Army rolled in, upon which the Poles were sent to gulags. The Japanese believed it would have been dishonorable to surprise attack an unexpected enemy, so they sent a declaration of war to the US 30 minutes before the Pearl Harbor attack. However, the upper military brass delayed that message until 20 minutes after the attack had begun. Dick moved to both sides of the conflict there. Edit. I meant the Japanese upper brass delayed the message, not the US one. The US was caught completely off guard as they were expecting sabotage, not a full-scale offensive. If I remember correctly, upon their return, many of the Japanese pilots were horrified to learn that the Americans had no idea they were coming and were under the impression that war would have already been declared. It was considered dishonorable. When a British officer was talking to Robert Surcouf, he said, "We British fight for honor, you French fight only for gain." To which Surcouf replied saying, "You are quite right. Each fights for that which he does not possess." Edit. It was Surcouf who originally roasted an English captain with this one. It wasn't Napoleon who originally said it, merely paraphrased. Edit 2. Removed Napoleon and Russian.